welcome to the Jeff Rubin Show. I am Jeff Rubin, joined today by Skype on the phone by Lynn Barron, a former Disneyland custodian and co-author of the book Cleaning the Kingdom, Insider Tales of Keeping Walt's Dreams Spotless, and co-host of the Sweep Spot podcast. Lynn, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Lynn, give me some sense of history here. When did you first start to work at Disneyland? And this is Disneyland, not Disney World, just to be clear. This is the one in Los Angeles.
Well, I grew up in Los Angeles, so I kind of was going to Disneyland most of my life. And when I started to work there the first time, I had two times that I worked there. At 93.
How old were you?
I was like 21 or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I worked in the food, so I had like bus tables. And then 5 years later, I went back and I worked with custodial, and I was there for almost 10 years.
So everyone's that's listening is just starting to get to know you, but I have read the book and I've listened to the podcast, so I know you love Disneyland and this is in your blood. So I guess I'm just kind of curious, why did you leave and what brought you back to it?
I was young the first time, and I called in sick a lot and just didn't really take the job seriously. I guess, when you're young, you make stupid decisions, but, and when you're older sometimes. But yeah, I ended up, not being able to go back to work there. And so when I went back in 98, I kind of had to explain why they should hire me back. And I told them, I was just a dumb kid and I'm serious about life now and I want to work.
It must have been hard.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have worked anywhere. So, it must have been hard to, go back to somewhere where you had this bad experience and to own up to previous mistakes. What compelled you to do that instead of, getting a job somewhere where you didn't have a history and where you wouldn't have had to explain that?
I just really loved Disneyland. I loved the history. I loved everything about it. And I'd say probably within that time span, I grew, because I was an annual pass holder even after that. I just grew to appreciate the history and what Disneyland is. Did
you enjoy working there? Did working there contribute to your enjoyment of Disneyland? I feel like it could go two ways. It could make you hate it, or it could make you love it even more. What happened?
I don't. People ask that, does it ruin the magic? I don't think so, and I think it can enhance it if you are a really curious person. You want to know how things work, and that's what I am. So I enjoyed learning about everything that went on behind the scenes, and that was really cool.
So the first time was in food services, the second time was as a custodian. Mm-hmm. Did you work in food services or as a custodian in other places, or was that just kind of a way into Disney for you?
The first time?
Either time.
I specifically asked for custodial the second time because I had a mutual friend that was in custodial, and they had told me that it's good because you get to walk all around. You're not in just one area. You're not stuck in a kitchen or behind a counter in a store. You're outside. You're in different areas every day, doing a different assignment every day, and that sounded appealing to me.
So you're not just a Fantasyland custodian. You're a Disneyland custodian. You get the whole park is sort of your domain.
Right.
So you must really know that park inside and out, right?
Pretty good, yeah. What
was the worst kingdom to clean, and what was the best kingdom to clean?
It just depended on what was going on if there was a new attraction in this area or not. But a lot of times Main Street at the end of the night the worst because everyone had to leave that way. Doing show cleanups sometimes, like Fantasmic, those could get really bad. Some of the better ones, it just depended because some people didn't want to work around guests a lot, so they would pick something like the parking structure. But to me, you could do that anywhere. Why if you're going to work at Disneyland, why work in a parking structure? But I enjoyed doing it all. I liked all the different lands. Ken, my co-host on our show and co-author, he and I both worked on the west side, and we enjoyed that. Adventureland in New Orleans area. There was a lot more trees over there, so it was more shady.
Yeah. Just quickly, just so I understand, is there a difference between a custodian and a janitor? Are those synonyms, or are they different jobs?
At Disneyland, it was just a custodian, but I know what you're saying, that some people would call us janitors or jannies, but I think a custodian is more of takes ownership of an area or something. You know, they're the custodian of something. So that was kind of why I think they took that title more.
So it sounds like the second time you went back was a good experience. It sounds like that was a good
Oh
experience
yeah.
because you're
Oh
still
yeah.
writing and talking about it, and you had done some growing up. Um, so, I mean, Disneyland, the thing I love about Disneyland is they do everything in an interesting way, right? Like, Universal
Mhm.
Studios and all the others are kind of the same. But Disney, usually, most elements of Disney are very well considered and very well thought out. What is, like, special and what's different about the way Disney cleans the parks versus how other places might clean their, parks?
I don't. I think what it is that Disney. Well, it kind of goes back to Walt and his vision on how he wanted it to be different than at the time in the 50s and before. It was amusement parks, and they were known for being dirty. And um, I think he wanted the opposite of that. He wanted to be super clean. So to carry that vision on and on through the decades now, Disney's put the time, the training, and the money into making sure that is, carrying on. Universal, I think they strive that obviously, safety and cleanliness is important, but I don't think they put it as high up as maybe Disney does.
Yeah, so it's just a matter of prioritization. That's what you're telling me?
Yeah, that's what I think.
Are there any like sort of cleaning tasks that are unique to Disneyland that you wouldn't have to worry about if you were a custodian at a high school or a football stadium or just anything else?
Maybe cleaning up after a parade, confetti.
How do you
Yeah.
clean confetti? Because confetti's a nightmare to clean, right?
Oh yeah, and at Disneyland, everything had to have confetti, right? Everything's better with confetti.
So how do you clean up the confetti?
Sometimes the confetti would be shot like from Main Street off the building, so it would get stuck on the canopies, in the bushes, everywhere. So we actually, at one point, I don't think they do this anymore because of safety, but we actually would have people hanging off the building with blowers, blowing off the canopies, and then once it got to the ground, we'd take big vacuums and we'd walk down Main Street and down the parade route and suck it all up.
Can you walk me through like an average day in the life of a custodian at Disneyland? How does it work? When do you show up?
So, working at Disneyland, when we worked there, most people would get dressed and changed at the park. So you'd come in your street clothes, we would call it, and then you would change in your costume, and then you would go check in at a custodial office that was a central location for all the custodians, and then from there.
Where is that office? Is that like is that off-site or is it like under Thunder Mountain or something cool like that?
No, it's actually it's like in an office building. The railroad. There's a diorama scene with the Grand Canyon and all that. That's actually of an office building. That whole thing.
Is the office building like fun and Disney-fied, or is it just a regular office building?
Yeah, just regular. Yeah, just yeah. So we would go and check in there, and they would tell us. We would already kind of know on our schedule where we would be that day, like Fantasyland or Frontierland, but we would just check in, and then we'd go to that area, and then we'd find out what our assignment is once we arrived in that area.
And what are some potential assignments? Sweeping.
Yeah, like you would sweep, like say, Frontierland has Frontierland area that's over like by Big Thunder Mountain, the entrance in Frontierland, and then so we would share Frontier Adventureland was one area, and then we'd have someone in Adventureland, and we have someone that would go like bridge to bridge. We'd call it like Pirates to Big Thunder Mountain, and so you would have one of those sweeping assignments, and all you would do is you're supposed to do the whole area within 15 minutes and continue that throughout your shift. So one area was always getting swept at least every 15 minutes, and then or you could do trash. We'd have people that would dump all the trash cans in that area.
Are the trash cans at Disney are kind of fun. Like they have their themes to the area they're in. They're not just like green mesh baskets. Are there like fun Disney dumpsters that they eventually end up in?
No, it's just a big white gray dumpster in the
Just
back.
full
Yeah.
of trash, huh?
Yeah, yeah, but you're right. They are kind of themed, and a lot of people are really fascinated by the designs, and I mean they've even made salt and pepper shakers out of them. I mean,
Out of the trash
yeah,
cans.
you're right.
Do
Yeah.
you ever have to clean the rides? Is anyone ever like, oh, someone has to go dust off the Johnny Depp robot? I guess Johnny Depp robot wasn't there when you were there, or but you
Yeah,
know
it
what I mean.
was. Yeah, yeah. That was mostly like night crew that would do a lot of the weird, the stuff that was maybe like that, because then the rides would be closed. And we worked mostly. We would work night, but it wasn't called night crew. We would work somewhere between 5 a.m. and maybe 2 a.m. And then night crew would come in at midnight to like 8 in the morning.
So there's like Disneyland at 24 hours a day. There's people walking around. I
Yeah.
mean, it's closed, but 24 hours a day, there's people getting it ready for when it's open, right?
Right.
What's it
Yep.
like at night? Like, what is Disneyland like when it's just not full of tourists and families and me, and instead it's just like, the staff, and it's like kind of calm, not everything's on. What is the feeling like then?
That's the best. So it's just really quiet. Some areas will still have the music that continues to play all day.
Tell me It's a Small
continue-
World plays all night.
No, I don't think so. But yeah, and then some areas are really quiet, and some people will pump, whatever they want music in the area. Just whatever. I don't know. I enjoy it. I mean, you can walk around, you can see things you don't maybe notice. Some of the things are actually louder than you realize too. You could hear the Snow White wishing well, the Snow White singing over there, all the way over in like Critter Country. So it's kind of interesting to see what it's like. I mean, there's trucks and maintenance crews just driving everywhere. They hose off all the surfaces, so there's water everywhere.
Do you guys ever say, I don't know, someone's like, you're a little bored today, let's turn on Splash Mountain for a half hour and, give it a go? There's none of that, right?
No, not really. And all the ride operators leave, after the park closes. But there are maintenance people that run, test run and try, things during the night also. But yeah, I mean, sometimes at the end of the night when we were sweeping out maybe a lines queue, a queue, and the ride operators were still there winding it down, they might say, hey, want to, take a last ride or something. And so we go, yeah, sure, and jump in. But that was kind of a rare thing, but it did happen.
So you're someone who's like been at Disneyland more than most. You're so full of it. So full of Disneyland, not full of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you've drank so much Disneyland. Even after all that, like having done everything you can possibly do at the park, I imagine, like what is your favorite thing to do? Is there anything that like still has that magic that you still get excited about when you have a chance to go on it?
I think Pirates of Caribbean and Haunted Mansion are my two favorites, and I think just because those represent the Disneyland that when Walt was there. I mean, those didn't open until after he died, but he had his hand in a lot of those, and the audio animatronics and the imagination and the details that went into both of those are just amazing.
So you seem like you are really interested not just in Disneyland today and getting there and going on rides, but in the history of it. Did you learn more about the history while you were there?
Yeah, I mean, because when you're sleeping or you're curious, you check things out, and then also they would kind of give us the basics teachings of the history. And some of the people we worked with were older, and I mean, some of the guys we worked with had started in the 60s, and to talk with them about times, things that happened then, and even some of them worked there when Walt was there, was amazing.
What kind of stories do they have? Like, what's the difference between working in Disneyland in the 60s versus working there when you worked there?
It seemed like they were strict, but they also had more fun. Like, there wasn't as many of these safety thing. I mean, not that they weren't trying to be safe, but you know what I mean? Nowadays, it's like everything has extra this and extra that because people are afraid of being sued. But I think that it just seemed like they had more fun, like, with the job. And not to say that we didn't, but it seemed like they had more.
In your book, you talk about sort of the history of custodial services at Disneyland. How did you research that?
just by talking with some of those older people and finding out about it. I mean, it was just amazing to find out that our manager, Ray, he was the second ever manager of Custodial. And we were there working with him, and Disneyland started in 55, so there was only one other Chuck before him, and Chuck was hired by Walt. So to for that to only be, two people in that amount of time is just amazing. Just shows you that, how Disneyland is with their management and stuff.
Yeah, I actually have a memory that maybe I'm making up. But I remember being at Disneyland once and seeing like a piece of gum on the ground and seeing a very cheerful, like, old custodian, probably whistling. In my imagination, in my recollection, he's like whistling and kind of like lean over, like flip out a tool out of his belt, kind of bend over and like scrape it up with a smile on his face, and then like put the tool away and keep smiling. It was like something out of a cartoon, and it's like always stuck with me because like a lot of custodians you see at other places maybe don't have quite that much of a positive attitude, and I guess I'm wondering like where does that story sound true to you, and if so, like where that comes from. It's just a matter of treating your employees well. Is it a matter of being at Disneyland all day?
Yeah, I think that, yeah, they treat you well. I mean, there's a lot of perks and benefits to the job, but also
Quick
just
question: Unlimited Disneyland?
Yeah.
Can you go to Unlimited Disneyland when you work there?
Unlimited Disneyland. You can go to Disneyland as many. Yeah, you can go after you're off work if you want.
Did you ever want to go to once you were done with work? Did you ever want to come back? You did not.
No.
Okay, so I'm sorry I interrupted
Yeah.
you. There were perks and it was good.
Yeah, just like I was saying earlier, with the vision that Walt left for everyone to, with cleanliness, and that's passed down, and they make sure that that you understand that that's something important. They tell everyone, it doesn't matter if you're a manager, a ride operator, or what you do, you are to help keep the park clean. So if you're walking across somewhere and you are a chef in New Orleans and you see trash, you're supposed to bend over and pick it up. And so that's just kind of something they teach everyone.
What's something that you as a custodian had to do at Disneyland that people would not appreciate that custodians at Disneyland have to worry about?
Oh, you mean like some of the bad stuff, like
Well,
nasty?
just some of like the surprising tasks that like people don't appreciate that people at Disneyland are like worrying about. But I'll take some bad stuff later too.
Well, I don't know. I mean, some of the jobs are just, because there's so many people in the park, there's a lot of things that happen. There could be, someone getting sick, to someone hurting themselves, to emotional breakdowns, to lost children, so there's all those different things that happen that you wouldn't run across in a normal job, probably.
Is there like a craziest thing you ever witnessed at Disneyland, like a one-off event that you just spent so much time there? Is there like a day where you were like, I cannot believe that happened?
A lot of things like that, yeah. Well, it seems like the bad stuff always sticks out, But so Ken and I were both leads, and we were in charge of responding to calls. So we would get a call. Say we were the Tomorrowland lead, and we'd get a call. There's a spill over in the Star Trader shop. And we go, okay. So we go over there and we clean up the spill. Well, Tomorrowland has a lot of attractions that people are potentially can get sick on, like Star Tours, Motion Ride, Space Mountain's a roller coaster. So we would there was one day it was really busy. I was lead, and I ended up with getting 36 calls. I started counting after like 6 or 8, I don't know, but I had 36 calls for Code V. Now we called them Code V because V is for vomit, and so yeah, 36 in one day.
What was going on?
I don't know. I thought, man, what are they serving here? But I don't know. Just random calls, just people getting sick. It was really warm that day too, so.
And the vomiting, you suspected it was food related and not, say, thrill ride related?
No, I think I was just kidding. I think it was thrill ride related and just being so warm.
Is there a lot of that at Disneyland? Do people barf on the rides often? Because they're not like super. They're not like the roller coasters,
No, kids like throw up spontaneously.
Totally, yeah. I mean, kids throw up. I get it.
Yeah, it just happens. And I think they get excited. They're somewhere new, somewhere exciting, and they just had a big breakfast, and next thing you know, so.
On the other side of the coin, is there a day where you had your greatest triumph, where there was like something where you felt like you were really able to have, make your mark in Disney custodial services?
I think some of the busy days you feel that way. Some of them you don't maybe not feel that you accomplished a lot, but you feel like you made it. Like New Year's Eve 1999. Remember Y2K?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
How can I forget? How did that play out? How did Y2K affect Disneyland operations?
Well, everyone, not just Disneyland, thought that computers were going to shut down. Everything was going to shut down, right? So there was all these precautions being taken, but at the same time, they didn't know. So they prepared us by, we each had to carry a flashlight, and then when the guests came in that day, those little